Dr. Jonette on Grow with Dr. Jonette. As the holidays get closer, especially the Christmas holidays, I start thinking about how I can bring nature in and incorporate it as part of my decorations. Of course, the obvious thing is a Christmas tree, but I also like to make wreaths from the green trees and the greenery that I find in my yard, as well as add to that wreath some other natural elements like dried oranges. So today I'm gonna show you how to dry oranges. It's really simple. It's basically you cut the oranges and you dry them. But I'm gonna talk a little bit about it as well. When I was a kid growing up, some of my friends had dried orange wreaths, actually, and you can make dried orange wreaths. We never had them because oranges were kind of a luxury, and we got oranges at Christmas time, but we weren't about to cut them up and dry them and make them into wreaths because we got one orange each on Christmas morning in our stockings as a treat. So for me, having oranges to cut up and put in a wreath, or to make an orange garland out of them, or to just use them in decorations is always something that has a special place in my heart. So I hope you enjoy this little tutorial on how to dry oranges. You're going to need a couple of things. You want a nice ripe orange, and I like an orange that's still nice and juicy that hasn't started to dry up, because if they've started to dry up, I've got some oranges here that I did dry, and a couple of them had started to dry up before I cut them. And you can see as they dry even more on the dryer, they can tend to pull apart. You can still use these in a wreath. What you want to do is just kind of tuck them down so that you only see part of them. But it's always nicer to start with an orange that's nice and juicy like these ones here. So you want to just cut them into thin slices, about 1/4 of an inch. If they're nice and thin, a couple of things happens. One is they dry quicker, which is great, because these ones over here that I have are, some of them especially, are quite thick. You can see this one's fairly thick, the rind. It's a little more than 1/4 of an inch probably. And some of these took probably about, I'm just trying to think, probably about 48 hours to dry. And that's a long time. So I like to cut them nice and thin so that they dry in. The other thing I really like about a nice thin dried orange slice is that when you hang them up, if you were to say make an orange garland out of them, when you hang them up, the light kind of comes through them and gives them almost a translucent quality, which I love as well. So once you get your orange, pretty much I cut off the ends. I don't use them, I just discard them. Once you get your orange cut up, you want to decide how you're going to dry it. I have a food dehydrator that I love to use, and it makes it really easy. You could air dry them. You could dry them on a cookie sheet in the oven. There's a lot of different ways that you could dry them. You could put them, if you live in a warmer climate that gets a lot of sunshine, you could even put them out and let Mother Nature, the sun, dry them. However you want to dry them. We're going to cut one more up and fill up this dehydrator sheet. So what kind of a knife do I use? I like to use a serrated knife. This is actually my bread knife that I use. It seems to work better for cutting them nice and thin. Just looking to see how thin they are. Most of them are pretty thin. There's still some that are still a little on the thicker side, so they'll probably take a little longer to dry. But that's pretty much full now, and I'll fill this other one up. I have a total of 4 of them for my dehydrator, and then I'll show you how I put them in the dehydrator. So I've got my oranges all sliced up here, and I'm ready to assemble my dehydrator. My dehydrator comes in a number of different, I guess you could call them shelves, but drying racks. It has a bottom part there, and then you just stack these drying racks. When I was slicing up all of those oranges, it reminded me of when I was a kid growing up. One of the things that we had to do was, or one of the things that we did was, we made our own homemade bread. And if it was your turn to make lunches for your 10 siblings, that meant you had at least 10 sandwiches, but some of my siblings would take 2 sandwiches, so usually we had about 15 sandwiches that we would have to make for school lunches every day, as we were vegetarians and took our own school lunch. So that meant I had to slice 30 slices of bread. And as I was sitting there slicing those oranges, it kind of reminded me of slicing those 30 slices of bread. We would make, on Sundays, we would make probably about 24 loaves of bread that would last us throughout the rest of the week for our school lunches. And I got really good at slicing bread, and just slicing up all of those oranges kind of reminded me of slicing the bread. If you have a hard time slicing oranges thin enough, some people have recommended a mandolin. I've never actually tried a mandolin, but I do know that when I slice the oranges, a serrated knife seems to work better than a regular knife. Also, it probably depends upon how sharp your regular knife is, but whatever works for you to get those orange slices nice and thin is great. And we've got our dehydrator all assembled now, and I'm ready to put the top on it. For drying the oranges, I usually set the temperature here to about 115, maybe 120 degrees, which is what you would put. You set your oven on, your lowest heat, your lowest setting in your oven is probably about 120 degrees. Most people oven go as low as that. And I'm going to just plug it in, and it has a fan in the top of it that basically there's a heating element, and then a fan, and the fan just blows the hot air, warm air on your fruit and circulates it throughout your fruit, or whatever it is you're dehydrating, vegetables, herbs, whatever it is, and it dries them. Our oranges are now dry. They're nice and dry, and they took probably about 24 hours in my dehydrator. I like to use them in my decorations. I put them on my Christmas wreaths. I will string them up and make a garland, put it in my windows, maybe put it in a place where it's backlit by candles so that nice glow of the candlelight shows through them. It's hard to really see how translucent they are, but they're fairly translucent when the sunlight hits them, and they make great Christmas decorations. They also will last. After I get done with them this year, I will vacuum pack them, and I'll still be able to use them again next year. Thank you for watching, for clicking that like button, as well as subscribing and signing up for notifications. When you do all of those things, it helps me understand what you like, what content you find valuable, and also helps my team and me get one of our goals, which is to get 10,000 subscribers. So your subscription gets us one step closer to that goal. For more information, also go to my website at growwithdrjonette.com. We've got there's a blog there with additional pictures, step-by-step instructions, as well as a lot of additional valuable information. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Grow with Dr. Jonette.